Good morning. Thank you for tuning in to Local News Live, a community service of AOC Community Media, weekdays at 9 o'clock. We read articles from the Acadiana Advocate, led by volunteer readers. If you're interested in being part of the program, you can email us at info@aocinc.org. We would absolutely love to have you. We've got a lot of news to cover this morning. We're going to start with local news, followed by some state news, even some fun stuff later on in the hour, like the horoscopes and this day in history. And we'll have the obituaries and funerals in the Acadiana area today as well. Let's start with Higgins and militia leader make peace. Congressman says he has come to admire organizer. An article by Ben Myers. U.S. Representative Clay Higgins on Tuesday night made tentative peace with a black militia leader he recently threatened to shoot. Higgins told John J. Fitzgerald Johnson in a phone call he had misunderstood the purpose of the Not Effing Around coalition, which Johnson founded within the last year with the stated mission to protect, self-police, and educate black communities. 1 month ago, Higgins, a Lafayette Republican, posted a photo of Johnson and militia members with a message threatening to drop any 10 of you where you stand. He advised supporters in a subsequent post to stay tuned for the time to gear up, mount up, and roll out. Facebook removed those posts for inciting violence. But Higgins told Johnson on Tuesday that he has since come to admire the militia leader and that he would meet Johnson in person at the group's demonstration in Lafayette on Saturday. You convey some things that are very impressive to me, just as a man, regarding your calm, your poised approach to this very volatile situation. Not just Lafayette, our nation needs healing right now, Higgins said to Johnson. Johnson recorded and published a video of the 20-minute call. Higgins' spokesperson said the congressman was not aware that Johnson would do so. The spokesman did not respond to a query for further comment. We are in new territory, people, Johnson told his viewers after hanging up with Higgins. Y'all have to understand what we're witnessing. A sitting congressman has had to apologize to Black Power. The group is planning to march through downtown Lafayette under a permit granted by Lafayette Consolidated Government. Johnson has said the demonstration is in response to Higgins' threats, as well as a show of solidarity with black residents following the Lafayette police killing of Trayford Pellerin on August 21st. Local officials on Wednesday said Johnson initiated contact and worked closely with them to plan for security. At least 2 other self-proclaimed militia groups have told local authorities they intend to show up, according to Sheriff Mark Garber. He declined to provide additional information about those groups. The demonstration is planned to begin at 4 p.m. at Parc Sans-Souci. Food, entertainment, and voter registration are scheduled to start at 11 a.m. Garber said law enforcement would uphold demonstrators' constitutional rights to peacefully assemble and bear arms, albeit in a non-permissive environment. He warned anyone planning to carry firearms to avoid gun-free zones downtown. Anyone found with a gun in those areas will be subject to arrest and felony charges, Garber said. NFAC has worked with us extensively. They have communicated very, very well, Garber said. The wild card is who all is going to show up and for what reason. Officials said on Wednesday morning they would provide maps of the gun-free zones as well as copies of the group's permit. Those records had not been provided as of 5 p.m. Some details about the event have not been publicized, including the marching route and expected number of permitted demonstrators. All non-members will be kept apart from the main demonstration. Johnson said his group will closely follow all laws and not initiate violence. Johnson told former Lafayette City Parish Councilman Kenneth Boudreau in a Facebook Live interview on Monday that Higgins must publicly apologize for his threats. If not, Johnson's group would make it so uncomfortable for your constituents they are going to beg you to apologize, Johnson told Boudreau. Higgins' conciliatory remarks in the Tuesday call fell short of an apology or a commitment to offer one, but Johnson said he expected Higgins to apologize when they meet at the demonstration. What I heard on that call was a man who wanted to be clear, was a man that wanted to clarify what his intentions were, and a man who was actually opening the door to try to reconcile, Johnson said. Johnson also said Higgins was understandably confused over his identity because an unaffiliated activist from Houston announced in an August 30th video that Johnson's group was coming to Lafayette. The activist, Jerry Monroe, demanded that Lafayette officials meet with him within 48 hours and warned that "you have a storm coming." Monroe later said he miscommunicated. Higgins made his threats 2 days after Monroe's video was posted, as Johnson and his group were involved in Louisville, Kentucky, demonstrations concerning the police killing of Breonna Taylor. Lafayette had not previously been a priority of his group, Johnson said. This entire situation grew out of another individual who is not affiliated with the NFAC, who had no right to speak on our behalf and who issued information that was tantamount to a threat that Higgins was responding to, Johnson said. Our next article this morning, a peek at the park. Donors, community leaders get tour of developments at Moncus Park, which is set to open in 2021. An article by Julia Gilbo. As development for Lafayette's Moncus Park continues, project leaders said they hope the park will bring increased quality of life to the area. The park, set to open in 2021, will enter Phase 2 of its construction at the end of this year as it begins to work on adding amenities to the grounds to support activities for all ages. The additional construction will bring a Louisiana swamp-themed splash pad, an amphitheater, a tree house, and a playground to provide entertainment for all ages. The park features a dog park, a lookout mound, a large lake, a water bottle filling station, and areas throughout the property where hammocks can be hooked up. Eventually, the park plans to offer kayak and paddleboard rentals on the lake. As donors and key community members gathered Wednesday morning for a tour of the park development, leaders described just what kind of impact a park with these amenities could provide for Lafayette. Lenny Lemoyne, chairman of the park's board, said, "Open public spaces such as Moncus Park play a vital role in the community and its well-being, especially as the younger generations continue to prioritize living in areas that include access to public facilities. The present generation decides where they want to live before they decide what they're going to do," Lemoyne said. "They're going to live in cities and places that provide them with the amenities that are meaningful to their lifestyle." The Lafayette community for years called for the area the park sits on, formerly known as the University of Louisiana at Lafayette Horse Farm, to be preserved and kept as an open public space. The 2005 movement to save the horse farm finally became a reality in 2012 when the City Parish Council voted to purchase the property from the university. And as Moncus Park celebrates the 100th anniversary of the original purchase of the property by former university president Joel Fletcher, community members are reminded of the longtime goal of the area to keep and preserve open public properties for the benefit of the community, according to Elizabeth E.B. Brooks. "It just gives me the biggest heartwarming feeling that we have accomplished what we thought was the most important reason why those properties were going to stay, so that we would be able to grow around it and the university could play a role in keeping this quality of life high," Brooks said. Providing Lafayette residents with a state-of-the-art outdoor area such as Moncus Park increases not just individual happiness, but also provides an increased attraction to the area of both businesses and potential employees, officials said. "We are so very fortunate that we have this property and we were able to tackle this project when we did, because you're either going to have this and compete, or if you don't have it, you're not going to be able to compete for the workforce of the future," Lemoyne said. The park is still in need of more donors to complete the vision. While it has already received about $20 million in donations for the construction of the park, the maintenance of the grounds is expected to be more than $1 million per year, requiring even more support from the community, according to Lemoyne. "If we all work together, it will be a world-class and competitive and something to keep our children and grandchildren in the area," he said. A Lafayette ad agency holds Podcast Day fundraiser. 19 area nonprofits are featured in interviews. An article by Megan Wyatt. A Lafayette advertising agency found unexpected success in marketing its own brand early on in the pandemic by offering businesses some help when they needed it most. Now, Brand Russo is hoping to offer that same assistance to Acadiana nonprofits, which have also taken a huge hit over the past 6 months. We just thought it was a win-win, said Jackie Russo, co-founder and CEO of the ad agency. We can use the audience we've built to help nonprofits because they've been hit so hard. They've had events canceled and have not been able to raise money while having to do so much more for so many people who have needs right now. Russo's team came up with the concept as a way to celebrate National Podcast Day on Wednesday. Brand Russo has an audio podcast called Razor Branding that's acquired about 6,000 subscribers in 2 years. When the coronavirus shutdown began, Russo's team decided to shift gears and host live video podcasts on Facebook and YouTube that feature businesses that have adapted to not just survive the pandemic, but also thrive during it. We wanted to find a way to help more people, Russo said, so we thought it would be cool to do a little pandemic pivot that might give people inspiration. We interviewed people who made their own pandemic pivots. The concept was an instant success. It took 2 years to get 6,000 subscribers for the audio podcast, but just 2 weeks to reach more than 15,000 people through the live video interviews. Russo interviewed leaders of 19 nonprofit organizations on Wednesday in live videos that can be found at the Brand Russo Facebook page. Funds raised each hour through mightycause.com went to the featured organizations. The organizations featured included Dreams Foundation of Acadiana, Foster the Love, Parish Proud, Downtown Lafayette Unlimited, Leadership Institute of Acadiana, Catholic Charities of Acadiana, the Healing House, Boys and Girls Club of Acadiana, Faith House, United Way of Acadiana, Community Foundation of Acadiana, the Ragin' Cajuns Athletic Foundation, the United Way of Southwest Louisiana, Lafayette Community Library, Moncus Park, Big Brothers Big Sisters of Acadiana, Lafayette Habitat for Humanity, the 705, and the American Cancer Society. You know, on that note, let's see if we can get some public service announcements up for you this morning. We do offer a service ongoing that if you are a nonprofit, we'll air your public service announcements on our TV channels as well as here on Cypress Street Radio. Currently, Healing House is seeking grief support group volunteers. Healing House, Hope for Grieving Children, is looking for volunteers to help grieving children and teens who have experienced the death of a parent, sibling, or special person. Interested volunteers must be at least 21 years of age, available 2 evenings out of each month, and able to attend the scheduled training series. Healing House, Hope for Grieving Children, provides grief support groups for children in an atmosphere where they're allowed to express their grief through interactive play, expressive artwork, and discussion groups with peers experiencing the same trauma. All services provided by Healing House are free of charge and run by trained volunteers. Volunteers serve as support group facilitators for children aged 4 through 17 and are instructed how to listen and respond appropriately to a grieving child. A background or experience in mental health or counseling is not required. The upcoming training session will be held Friday, October the 23rd from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and Saturday, October 24th from 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Volunteers are required to attend both days of the training series. The volunteer application can be found online at www.healing-house.org/ways-to-give/volunteer. To learn more about Healing House and the services that they provide, you can call 337-234-0443. You can email Kim at healing-house.org, or you can visit their website at healing-house.org. If you'd like to submit a public service announcement to AOC, you can email us at info@aocinc.org. Add us to your press release list, and also check out our website. We also offer other services for our message board on the TV channels. Go to aocinc.org. Okay, we're going to move on to our next local story this morning. 3 charged with obstruction in killings. Men also accused of murder in case, by Katie Gagliano. 3 men accused in connection to January 2018 killings were indicted Wednesday on obstruction of justice charges related to the murder cases. A Lafayette grand jury formally charged Christopher Burns, 32, Dylan Douglas, 24, and Trayvon Woods, 22, with a count each of felony obstruction of justice in incidents that occurred on January the 11th, 2018. The same day, the three men are accused in the deaths of 28-year-old Justin Zeno of Lafayette and 23-year-old Skylar Berry of Lake Charles, court records show. The men are accused of tampering with evidence with the specific intent of distorting the results of a criminal investigation or proceeding, the indictment said. Zeno's body was found in a burning vehicle about 1 a.m. January 12, 2018, in the 200 block of Bellow Street in Lafayette, and Berry's body was found less than 12 hours later under a vacant house in the 100 block of Regal Drive in Broussard, according to previous Acadiana Advocate reports. Former Lafayette Police Chief Toby Aguillard said in 2018 both victims were shot in Broussard before their bodies were disposed of in the locations they were found. The Lafayette and Broussard police departments jointly investigated the homicides. Aguillard said the victims and suspects knew one another and burglary was suspected as a motive. Police believe the men arranged to meet the night of the shootings, and several cell phones were recovered from Zeno's burned vehicle, law enforcement said in arrest affidavits filed in the court record. Burns, Dugas, and Woods were apprehended in Radcliffe, Kentucky after a white Dodge Caliber was captured on video and connected to the shootings. The vehicle was registered in Kentucky to Burns' girlfriend, the arrest affidavits said. In the arrest affidavits, the arresting officer said Dugas informed law enforcement that he, Woods, and Burns were together during the two homicides. Dugas told officers Woods was inside Zeno's Infiniti when Dugas heard gunshots. Dugas said he later saw Woods in the driver's seat of the Infiniti before the car was set on fire, the affidavits claim. The affidavits also said Woods confessed to the killings in an interview after waiving his right to an attorney. The document said Woods told officers he shot Zeno, then shot Berry as he attempted to run away from the vehicle with a gun provided by Burns. No other details were provided about Berry's killing or the disposal of his body. After the shootings, officers said Woods confessed to sitting on top of Zeno's body in the Infiniti and following Burns in the Dodge Caliber to Lafayette, where he said Burns suggested torching Zeno's vehicle. Woods told officers Dugas, who was a passenger in the Dodge Caliber, provided him the lighter used to set the blaze, Dugas' arrest affidavit said. Burns and Woods were arrested in the homicides in early February 2018 after being extradited from Kentucky. Dugas was later charged in April 2018 after being extradited from Las Vegas, court records show. Burns and Dugas made filings in their cases alleging the statements to police were made under duress or coercion. Burns requested in a motion the statements be thrown out. The motion was denied. In February, a motion to sever was granted in Burns' case, splitting his case from co-defendants Dugas and Woods. Burns' attorney Valerie Gotch Garrett argued there were conflicting statements from the three defendants and it hindered Burns' defense. On a lighter note this morning, she was a big influence. 2 years after his grandmother's death, Lafayette chef opens a French bistro in her name, an article by Megan Wyatt. It seemed only fitting for William Baxter to name his new restaurant after his grandmother. Jane Flanagan didn't just leave behind the physical building where his French bistro would eventually open. She also is the reason that Baxter loves cooking French cuisine in the first place. I'm sure she would be very proud and very happy that he carried on the building and converted it into something useful and tasteful, Baxter said. The building kind of came pre-decorated because it was her antique shop. We kept the decor on the walls and the ceilings and everything. I think she would be very happy that we're kind of carrying on her name. She was a big influence on me, and she's one of the reasons I'm a chef today. Flanagan, who died in 2018 at the age of 93, apologies for this. I'm going to have to pause the live feed for just a moment, take a phone call. Okay, my sincere apologies for that. That was an important telephone call that my husband's been waiting for, and I was afraid that we wouldn't be able to reach them again if I didn't answer it. So, sincere apologies for that. That's the perks of a live news read, isn't it? Okay, let's carry on with this story. She was a big influence on me, and she's one of the reasons that I'm a chef today. Flanagan, who died in 2018 at the age of 93, spent most of her life traveling to and from France for her business, antiques and interiors. She often took her daughter and grandson along, and Baxter developed a love for French cuisine. Baxter, 38, grew up cooking Cajun staples alongside his mom and grandmother in Lafayette. He earned a culinary degree in New York City and worked for Michelin star restaurants in California, Florida, and New Orleans before returning to his hometown of Lafayette. After 2 years of work, Jane's French Cuisine will open Thursday at 618 East University Avenue. Baxter and his general manager, Michael Hughes, welcomed friends and family for a test run on Monday evening. It was rewarding to see people appreciating all the hard work and effort, Baxter said. I'm anticipating a lot more hard work and effort in the future. As we go along, we're going to get better and better. Hughes moved to Lafayette for the management position after spending years working at restaurants in New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and his decision to relocate was twofold. Hughes loves the culture, people, and energy of Lafayette and sees the restaurant industry as more stable in Lafayette than New Orleans for the foreseeable future. COVID has really shut down the city of New Orleans, Hughes said. In my opinion, it's going to take years before it really comes back. When this opportunity came up, I jumped on it. The restaurant is beautiful, and I have confidence in Will and his cuisine. The small contemporary French bistro has a handful of tables inside and a few more outside. The menu will change regularly depending on what ingredients are available and what's inspiring the chef owner. One of Baxter's favorite dishes was also a customer favorite during Monday's soft opening. It's a roasted poisson chicken with Dijon beurre blanc, potato soufflé, autumn burgundy truffle, and microgreens. I just love the fresh truffles, Baxter said, and there's just something comforting about roast chicken. It's 9:22. We have a few local stories left before we take our midway break and read some fun things. Let's have another public service announcement this morning. The Acadiana Symphony Orchestra announces that they are shifting the fall portion of ASO 36 revival season to a virtual live stream platform. ASO believes that this is the unquestionable solution to keeping our community safe while still providing opportunities for local musicians to share. Oh, they're calling you back. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, Alex. Okay. Acadiana Symphony Orchestra has and will always remain committed to providing outstanding performances to Acadiana and fueling the cultural economy of our region. Symphonies, businesses, and organizations across the country are having to rethink, retool, and reinvent. We are no different. So thank you for your grace and your patience as we map out the next few months. We are working tirelessly behind the scenes to solidify plans for these virtual concerts, and it is our commitment to you that we will clearly and concisely communicate ASO 36 revival season details in the coming weeks. At a minimum, we are certain that you will receive the highest quality live streaming performance, which you can enjoy from virtually anywhere. The lineup so far for Triumph, October the 23rd, will be a virtual performance. Transform on November 13th. Believe on December the 17th. And on Friday, February the 12th, it will be Adore. Oh, that's actually 2021. February 12th, 2021 at the ACA. Empower, Friday, April 16th, 2021 at St. John's Cathedral. And Revive, Thursday, May 13th at St. Mary's Church. The Crime Blotter advocate staff reports 2 struck and killed at Johnston Street bus stop. The man and woman were struck by a vehicle and killed at a Johnston Street bus stop on Tuesday. Raven Quibido, 34, of Breaux Bridge, and Dennis Davis, 36, of Texas, were killed when a vehicle ran off the road in the 5700 block of Johnston Street and struck them about 5:30 p.m. Tuesday. Quibido and Davis were seated on the ground near a bus stop at the time of the crash, Lafayette Police spokesperson Sergeant Wayne Griffin said in a statement. The investigation into the crash is ongoing. Man booked on indecent exposure. A St. Martinville man has been booked on a child sex count, according to a KATC report. Chuck Sieber, 59, was booked on one count of felony indecent behavior with a juvenile. The investigation began back in May when deputies received a complaint. A warrant for Sieber was issued following an investigation. Following his arrest, he was booked into the St. Martin Parish Correctional Center. To contact a crime reporter at the Acadiana Advocate, you can email acadiananews@theadvocate.com or call 337-534-0526. Okay, before we move on to state news and sports this morning, we'll take a short break right here in the middle of the broadcast. First, we'll cover funerals today in the Acadiana area. Joyce Broussard at Our Lady of Perpetual Help Church in New Iberia today at 2 p.m. Wanda Broussard at David Funeral Home of Lafayette, 2 p.m. this afternoon. Kenneth Mouton, La Chapelle de Martin and Castile at 1 p.m. Ann Palombo, Crossroads Church, 150 Verona Drive in Lafayette at 11 a.m. this morning. And Laurel Upton Sr., Fountain Memorial Funeral Home at 1010 Pandora Street in Lafayette at 11 a.m. How about something a little bit lighter this morning? Let's hope. You never can tell in the Today in History because people don't often remember or repeat the happy things that happen. But let's take a look. Today, of course, is Thursday, October the 1st. It's the 275th day of 2020, and there are 91 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on October 1st, 2017, a gunman opened fire from a room at the Mandalay Bay Casino Hotel in Las Vegas on a crowd of 22,000 country music fans at a concert below, leaving 58 people dead and more than 800 injured in the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. The gunman, 64-year-old Stephen Craig Paddock, killed himself before officers arrived. On this date in 1908, Henry Ford introduced his Model T automobile to the market. In 1910, the offices of the Los Angeles Times were destroyed by a bomb explosion and fire. 21 Times employees were killed. In 1937, Supreme Court Justice Hugo Black delivered a radio address in which he acknowledged being a former member of the Ku Klux Klan, but said he had dropped out of the organization before becoming a U.S. Senator. In 1949, Mao Zedong proclaimed the People's Republic of China during a ceremony in Beijing. A 42-day strike by the United Steelworkers of America began over the issue of retirement benefits. In 1957, the motto, "In God We Trust," began appearing on U.S. paper currency. In 1962, Johnny Carson debuted as host of NBC's Tonight Show, beginning a nearly 30-year run. In 1971, Walt Disney World opened near Orlando, Florida. On this day in 1982, Sony began selling the first commercial compact disc player, the CDP-101, in Japan. In 1987, 8 people were killed when an earthquake measuring a magnitude 5.9 struck the Los Angeles area. In 1996, a federal grand jury indicted Unabomber suspect Theodore Kaczynski in the 1994 mail bomb slaying of advertising executive Thomas Moser. Kaczynski was later sentenced to 4 life terms plus 30 years. Also in 96, the federal minimum wage rose 50 cents to $4.75 an hour. 10 years ago today, White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel, planning an ultimately successful Chicago mayoral run, relinquished his post to Pete Rouse. 5 years ago, a gunman opened fire at Umpqua Community College in Roseburg, in Roseburg, Oregon, killing 9 people and then himself. Officials in Michigan declared a public health emergency over the city of Flint's water in response to tests that showed children were with elevated levels of lead. 1 year ago today, the Trump administration resisted efforts by Congress to gain access to impeachment witnesses. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo sought to delay 5 current and former officials from providing documents and testimony. Today's birthdays: former President Jimmy Carter is 96 today. Actor-singer Julie Andrews turns 85. My goodness, happy birthday. Actor Stella Stevens turns 82. Rock musician Jerry Martini of Sly and the Family Stone turns 77. Jazz musician Dave Holland is 74 today. Actor Randy Quaid turns 70. Rhythm and blues singer Howard Hewitt turns 65. Former British Prime Minister Theresa May is 64 today. Actor Esai Morales turns 58. Retired MLB All-Star Mark McGwire is 57 today. Actor Christopher Titus turns 56. Actor-model Cindy Margulies is 55 today. Producer John Ridley is 55 as well. Rock singer-musician Kevin Griffin of Better Than Ezra is 52 today. Actor Zach Galifianakis is 51. Singer Keith Duffy is 46 today. Actor Katie Azelton turns 42. Actor Sarah Drew is 40 today. Actor-comedian Beck Bennett turns 36. Actor Jesse Smollett is 34. Actor Brie Larson turns 31. And actor Priya Ferguson is 14 today. Let's take a look at the horoscopes. If you're a Libra, tie up loose ends without making a fuss and do what you have to do. Be transparent regarding your intentions. Clear the air and put your plans in motion. Scorpio, an opportunity will require you to make a lifestyle change. Don't let uncertainty stop you from moving forward with your plans. Develop a strategy and put your ideas in motion. Sagittarius, spend time with the people who bring out the best in you. Refuse to let anyone entice you to indulge or overspend. Romance will improve a meaningful relationship. Capricorn, don't get into a senseless argument with a loved one. Put your energy into changes that will make your life more convenient. A money matter will surface if you share expenses with someone who is extravagant. Aquarius, you'll discover a way to make extra cash using one of your talents. A partnership will help you get your plan up and running. Romance is on the rise. Pisces, look for a unique way to earn money and work on honing your skills and putting your plan in motion. Someone you've collaborated with in the past will have something to offer. Aries, uncertainty will revolve around your work, position, and status. Stay calm and work hard to show how valuable and resourceful you are. Benefits will come your way. Taurus, before you make a change, cover every angle and detail that's required for you to be successful. Don't count on others to take care of your responsibilities. You must do the work yourself. Gemini, look for help in familiar places. Reach out to like-minded people who have never let you down in the past. And don't be short-sighted when it comes to partnerships. An unexpected change will take you by surprise. Cancer, consider doing things differently if you want to bypass a rival or opponent. Arguing will make you look bad, but coming up with a workable solution will pay off. Leo, deal with emotional issues that surface between you and a friend. Ignoring problems will lead to uncertainty and an inability to take advantage of an opportunity that comes your way. And lastly, Virgo, voice your opinion and bring about change and handle financial, health, and legal matters yourself. Stay in control, take the initiative, and live life your way. The horoscope, of course, is an entertainment feature not based on scientific fact. It's 9:33 before we get back into the state news this morning. How about one more public service announcement? The United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC Community Media and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United programs air every weekday from 8 to 2 on AOC Channel 2. That's Cox Channel 16, LUS Channel 4. You can also stream on our website at aocinc.org/watch. For the daily schedules and to submit content for the program, you can visit the United Way of Acadiana's website at unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. All right. From the state news this morning, GOP lawmakers blast virus restrictions. Health leaders say resurgence likely. An article by Will Sintel and Sam Carlin. Skeptical members of two House committees Wednesday grilled Governor John Bel Edwards' administration on reasons behind economic and other restrictions aimed at curbing the coronavirus pandemic, amid warnings by health leaders that a resurgence is all but inevitable. Meanwhile, other lawmakers began work on possible ways to curb Edwards' ability to spell out rules governing restaurants, businesses, and bars. The Senate, led by President Page Cortez, Republican of Lafayette, passed legislation Wednesday to give lawmakers oversight but not voting power over the governor's executive orders. It would also require both chambers to sign off on a petition to cancel an executive order, thereby making it more difficult to nullify all coronavirus restrictions. Some of the more conservative House members are circulating petitions to do that. That bill passed 36-0, but it must receive support from the House before heading to the governor's desk. All the action took place on the third day of a special session called by the Republican-controlled legislature. One of the key topics which has dominated the opening days of the session is whether and how to allow lawmakers more input into coronavirus restrictions. The session can last up to 30 days and has to end by 6 p.m. on October 27th. The House Education and Health and Welfare Committees held a 5-hour hearing mostly devoted to questioning State Health Officer Dr. Jimmy Guidry, a 30-year veteran, and Dr. Joseph Cantor, the Department of Health's medical director for the New Orleans region. Guidry bluntly told the committees he is confident there will be a new surge of cases during flu season, and it will be as intense as the outbreak in Louisiana in the spring. We do not know at this time what the virus brings to us, what we are going to deal with, Guidry said. My biggest fear is we think it's going away, and it is not going away, he said later. But a host of Republican lawmakers who say they have been sidelined from the governor's decisions as constituents complain spent hours questioning reasons for the restrictions. Representatives Michael Echols, Republican from Monroe, Raymond Cruz, Republican from Bossier City, Rick Edmonds, Republican from Baton Rouge, and others asked about rules governing public schools, the 25% capacity limit at high school football games, and how far state government should go in regulating daily life. Echols said fears about doctor visits for cardiovascular, cancer, and other issues may eventually lead to more deaths than the 5,000 plus from the virus. My concern and fear is we have scared people literally to death in this process, Echols said. Christina Stevens, a spokesperson for Edwards, wrote on Twitter, yes, that is why the governor and health department authorized medical facilities to begin non-emergency procedures back in late April. Under orders of the governor, the state is in Phase 3 for the reopening of its economy, which allows restaurants and other sites to operate at 75% of capacity and permits bars to reopen with restrictions if parishes meet certain thresholds. East Baton Rouge Parish, home to LSU, joined others in meeting that threshold Wednesday. Edwards has repeatedly said his orders are aimed at striking a balance between saving lives and allowing residents to make a living. Edmonds and others repeatedly questioned why the state placed a cap of 25% of stadium capacity for high school football games. I do believe this is bringing some psychological damages to some of those families, and we want to help them, Edmonds said. Cantor said that there are multiple risks for such gatherings, including crowds entering and leaving the field and trips to restrooms. All of those things go in and present considerable risk, he said. There is no doubt about it. Cantor said public schools have reported 523 cases of the virus. Cruz said herd immunity, allowing enough infections nationwide to essentially allow the virus to run its course, is an idea worth exploring. You can't shut everything down, Cruz said. Cantor denounced the idea. He said it is a radical notion that is not backed by the White House or the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. While the Cortez bill cleared the Senate, many House Republicans want to go further. Representative Blake Miguez, an Erath Republican who heads the lower chamber GOP delegation, said Cortez's bill will be difficult to get through the House without changes. For one, some House Republicans want to retain the ability to cancel a public health emergency with only one chamber, keeping their petitions in play. More broadly, Miguez indicated House Republicans want the ability to approve or reject or at least modify Edwards' executive orders. Those orders, which have continued unabated since March, have instituted a range of restrictions on businesses and daily life, mandating masks, keeping many bars closed, and limiting restaurants to reduced capacity. Our constituents are speaking loud and clear. They want to open the economy, Miguez said in an interview. Representative Jack McFarland, Republican of Jonesboro, who presented 2 of 8 bills aimed at changing or giving the legislature more authority over coronavirus rules in a House committee Wednesday, said his legislation would let lawmakers roll back what he sees as regulations that have gone too far. My constituents are telling me they feel like their rights are being violated, that we are an overreaching government today, that our executive branch has gone beyond its intent, McFarland said. All 8 of the bills heard in the House and Government Affairs Committee, most of which give the legislature the ability to reject Edwards' orders or modify them by stripping out certain components, are scheduled for a vote Thursday along with Cortez's bill. Senator Patrick McMath, a co-author of Cortez's legislation, argued that their approach respects the separation of powers by conceding the governor the power to issue emergency orders as is normally done in disasters. The legislation creates an oversight board and requires the governor to give them advance notice of his rules. Oversight is extremely powerful, McMath said. It's not yet clear what will give between the 2 chambers. Edwards has already indicated he opposes giving the legislature a say over his decisions. Republicans in the House don't have enough votes by themselves to override a veto. House Speaker Clay Schexnayder, Republican from Gonzales, has also filed a resolution that would nullify the coronavirus emergency order in its entirety. That approach is nearly identical to the petitions circulating the House. Schexnayder on Wednesday said that measure is a tool in the toolbox that will serve as a negotiating instrument. Several Republicans have said nullifying the entire order is a nuclear option of last resort. It's 9:42. How about one more public service announcement this morning? If you've not yet registered to vote, you have until Monday to do so in person. You can find out more at sos.la.gov. You can also register online there through October the 13th. So if you want to get registered to vote, you can find sample ballots and all the details right now at sos.la.gov. Panel advances emergency election bills by Mark Ballard, Capitol Bureau editor. A Louisiana Senate committee on Wednesday advanced legislation peddled as a bipartisan way to streamline election protocols that ended up being decided by a federal court after intense bickering between lawmakers over access to absentee mail ballots. Everyone would have a seat at the table under the proposal, Republican supporters claim, but the measure would minimize a governor's say-so. The Senate and Governmental Affairs Committee also approved, without opposition and little discussion, a second bill that would allow parish elections commissioners 4 days instead of 1 to prepare mail-in ballots for the court on Election Day. So many voters have requested mail ballots that local officials fear they won't be able to count them all in time. But it was the system that creates emergency election protocols that received the most attention. Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin has repeatedly complained about how the angry debate among lawmakers slowed his work. This lengthy, cumbersome process does not provide the necessary flexibility to administer an election during these trying times, Ardoin testified, adding that Senate Bill 20 would put Louisiana more in line with other states. Under current law, once an emergency is declared, the Secretary of State must come up with a single plan on how to hold an upcoming election. His emergency plan then must be approved by both the House and Governmental Affairs Committee and the Senate and Governmental Affairs Committee, both chambers of the Louisiana legislature, and the governor. Any rejection among any of the parties requires Ardoin to draft another plan. The legislation was sponsored by State Senator Sharon Hewitt, the Slidell Republican who chairs the Senate and Governmental Affairs panel. The measure would allow the Secretary of State to submit several emergency plans to choose from rather than having to start all over if one is rejected. SB 20 would create an emergency election commission to decide. The commission would be chaired by the Secretary of State and would consist of 10 members, including the chairs of the legislative committees overseeing such plans now, the Speaker of the House and Senate President, plus the heads of the party delegations in each chamber and the governor. Under the current makeup, the commission would have 7 Republicans and 3 Democrats, including the governor. The plans would be approved by a majority vote. What I like about this bill, said Senator Barry Milligan, the Shreveport Republican, sitting in as chairperson while Hewitt presented the measure, is everybody does have a seat at the table, and that's obviously kind of a theme of our session. For the state election held over the summer, Ardoin initially issued an emergency plan that allowed wide use of absentee mail ballots. The governor agreed, but Hewitt and the Senate and Governmental Affairs Committee said no, sending Ardoin back to the drawing board. His second plan allowed some, but much less, access to mail ballots because of the COVID-19 pandemic. His second plan won approval of all the parties, though Ardoin said he had been warned by fellow Republicans that they would not accept a similar emergency plan for the November 3rd election and December 5th runoff. Ardoin drafted an emergency plan for November to December that limited access to absentee ballots to only those allowed under state law and voters who test positive for COVID-19 between early voting and election day. Louisiana's absentee balloting procedure is usually limited to people 65 or older, members of the military, overseas voters, people who are hospitalized, people who are physically disabled, and people who won't be in their parish for the election. The Republican-dominated committees and legislative chambers were fine with that plan, but Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards rejected the protocols. U.S. District Judge Shelley Dick of Baton Rouge weighed in through a previously filed federal legal challenge. Dick added extra days for early voting and reinstated Ardoin's summer plan for the November to December elections. Registered voters are now allowed to seek an absentee ballot if they are at a higher risk of severe illness from COVID-19 because of medical conditions, if they're subject to a quarantine order, are advised by a health provider to self-quarantine, are experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and seeking medical confirmation, or are caring for someone who is isolated because of the disease. Early voting for the November election will begin October 16th and run through October 27th. Ardoin said about 190,000 voters have requested absentee mail ballots with another month to go before the October 30th deadline. Usually the requests run less than 50,000, though in the 2016 presidential contest, about 63,000 asked to mail their ballots. Senate Bill 22, which the Senate panel also approved, would give parish election commissioners 4 days instead of 1 to prepare mail ballots. Once again, Monday is the final day if you want to register to vote in person or by mail. You can find out more at sos.la.gov. You can also register to vote on that website through October the 13th. So make sure you check that out, sample ballots. And if you're not yet registered to vote, make sure you do so ASAP because you are running out of time. It's 9:48. We have one final story this morning from the sports section. Beck plans for encore season. STM receiver had huge numbers in 2019. An article by Mike Coppage. Jack Beck isn't done yet. After only 1 season as a full-time starter at St. Thomas More, Beck already ranks 3rd in yards receiving in school history. As a junior, the Vanderbilt commitment caught 91 passes for 1,668 yards and 20 touchdowns, and helping the Cougars finish 11-2 along with the Division II state championship. I don't think Jack is done, STM offensive coordinator Shane Savoy said. I think there needs to be another growth spurt this season, not only as a wide receiver, but as a leader, and then in other areas where he can help our team. Savoy says fans have come to STM games just to watch Beck. He's obviously done things on the field that have set him apart, Savoy said. People have come to games to see him play. The state championship game was an example of that. It's not often when a kid can take over a game, and I think anybody who walked away from the field at the state championship game knew that Jack Beck was the best player on the field that night. It's created expectations, I think, for him, but I think that's the beauty of this place. Those expectations are always there. Although it may appear Beck suddenly burst on the scene last year, that's not the case. Where Jack is at now, it's not like some fly-by-night where it just happened, Savoy said. It's the process of a lot of work to get him to that. Obviously, there's some God-given ability that he originally had to start with, but a lot of guys have those abilities, and they never come to fruition because they never work at it. He works in the weight room. He works in the study room when we study film and go over his craft, and he works on the practice field. I felt like it was at the end of last summer's 7-on-7s when he really started to figure out the position. And then as the season went on, week by week, you started to see a growth spurt because he started to learn the position. Then I haven't seen him stop growing with his toolbox as a receiver. Beck, who lines up at receiver for the Cougars, recently received a 4-star rating from Rivals as a tight end. A lot of college coaches tell me that the tight end position isn't what you thought of it a couple years back, Beck said. It's now a kid who can play inside and outside receiver and can block really well if he's inside and needs to block a linebacker. It's not necessarily a hand-on-the-ground tight end, but more of a hybrid player who can go in and out, block, and is multi-dimensional. The 6'3", 215-pounder is locked into his commitment with Vanderbilt. I fully intend on signing there, he said. I think Vanderbilt is a really good spot for me. I'll get to play early. The coaches are telling me that they want me to make an impact my freshman year. I honestly think that wherever I went, I'd be able to make a name for myself, but I think that having the chance and knowing I would be able to play early there if I continue to grind and get better, that's going to be big for me. Former STM and current Louisiana Tech receiver Griffin Hebert raved to Beck about Todd Fitch, the current Vanderbilt and ex-Louisiana Tech offensive coordinator. Every time Griffin would come into town, he would go over what they did in their offense, and Coach Fitch is bringing the same offense from Tech to Vanderbilt, Beck said. Last year, Beck was catching passes from Caleb Holstein, who has graduated and turned over the offensive keys to Walker Howard. The chemistry is amazing with Walker, Beck said. The time and work we put in together since we were 8 years old, it's a pretty big amount. He and I are like brothers. We really do everything together. We're like family, and I think our connection is going to keep getting better. What does Beck plan to do for an encore of last year? I want to do better in everything that I did last season, he said. It's that simple. It's 9:52. That is our last news story for today. We'll finish up with a couple of public service announcements. Once again, if you would like to submit your press release or a PSA to us for this program, you can email info@aocinc.org. You can also get on our message board on our TV channels by visiting aocinc.org. Requests for mosquito control are now available through Lafayette 311. LCG is increasing mosquito abatement efforts in the parish following Hurricane Laura. An increase in mosquito activity is a common occurrence following a storm event, and citizens noticing an influx in mosquitoes in their area can now use the Lafayette 311 portal to request service. All submitted requests are routed directly to Mosquito Control Services, the mosquito control contractor for the parish. And finally, Festival of Words Student Creative Writing Contest. It's for all Acadiana area students in grades 3 through 12 who attend public schools, private schools, charter schools, and homeschools. The final deadline for online submissions via email is Friday, October 23rd by 11:55 p.m. Students in grades 3 through 12 from across the Acadiana area are invited to participate in a writing contest sponsored by the National Writing Project of Acadiana and the Festival of Words. Students can enter their original writing pieces in 3 writing categories, including poetry, fiction, and creative nonfiction. Writings should be submitted through a supervising teacher or school facilitator online by sending them to hmkreamer@louisiana.edu. That's Creamer with a K, at louisiana.edu. Parent guardian permission must be granted by filling out the student writing contest entry form. The supervising teacher or school facilitator should submit these forms electronically by the submission deadline as well. Awards will be given for first, second, and third place winners. Contest winners will also receive an anthology publication of winning entries. Please feel free to contact Dr. H. Michelle Creamer, Writing Competition Coordinator for the Festival of Words Student Creative Writing Contest at hmkreamer@louisiana.edu. It's 9:54. That's all the time we have for our program this morning. Once again, we do this every weekday at 9 a.m. Service to the community, reading articles from the Acadiana Advocate, local and state news, and led by volunteers. If you'd like to volunteer as part of the program, email us at info@aocinc.org. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning. Have a wonderful day.